Hello friends, my name is Gary Trichter. I'm a DWI specialist. And as a specialist, I get asked all the time, Gary, what are the penalties for a DWI? Well, that actually depends upon what kind of DWI we're talking about. If it's a DWI first, you've never had one before, and there is no test, or the test result is less than a 0.15 breath alcohol or blood alcohol concentration, you're looking at a punishment range in a Class B misdemeanor. A Class B misdemeanor can be punished by up to 6 months in jail and up to a $2,000 fine. You can also lose your license up to a year. If your punishment is probated, that is, the judge suspends any jail time that you would get, you cannot early terminate that probation. So if you have a 12-month probation, it is a 12-month probation. You're stuck with it. If you have a 0.15 breath or blood alcohol concentration, you no longer are in the range for a Class B misdemeanor. You've now made kind of the big leagues. You're now up to a Class A misdemeanor where the punishment is up to a year in jail and up to a $4,000 fine. If the alcohol concentration goes just to 1/6 from a 0.15, then the surcharge, where it would have been $1,000 a year, now jumps to $2,000 a year. Just like a non-test DWI, if you receive a probation, it cannot be early terminated. Well, what if it's my second DWI? Well, that's treated very similar to a Class A misdemeanor. That is, a DWI second, the punishment range is up to a year in jail, and the fine is the same. It's a $4,000 fine. But the license suspension is different. It goes to a 2-year driver's license suspension. And you'll be required, if you do receive a probation, to keep the breath alcohol ignition device or an interlock on your vehicle for half the probationary period. Now, if you've been so unlucky to be charged with a DWI second, the DWI second costs more to defend because it's more complicated, it's harder. It requires your lawyer to go back and look at the accuracy and reliability of the test records, that is the conviction records, from the first case. Sometimes in looking at those, we find a defect and we can knock them out. If we can knock out one of your prior convictions, then the charge automatically reverts to a lesser. In that case, it would be just a DWI first. So let's move ahead now to a DWI third. A DWI third occurs where you have 2 or more prior convictions, and there's no time limit on when those prior convictions occurred. If it is a final conviction under Texas law, then it can be used. So if it goes back to 1990 or 1980, guess what? It's going to be used against you. The punishment range for a DWI third is from no less than 2 years in prison to no more than 10 years in prison. In addition, you can get a $10,000 fine. There is no early termination of a DWI probation, whether it be for a misdemeanor or a felony. If, however, you have an interlock requirement, and you are going to have one in a felony case, you cannot get the interlock removed until at least half the time has been served. Now we go to the other type of a felony, and that's a DWI with a child. The punishment range there is no less than 180 days in jail to no more than 2 years in jail. But the jail that's here is different than the jail in a felony, an ordinary third-degree felony, which would be a prison. The place of incarceration for DWI with a child would be a state jail facility. And that is a specially tailored place that Texas has created where you can get different types of classes, different types of rehabilitation that are more oriented to DWI. So understand that the cheapest defense is going to be in your DWI first. It's going to get more expensive as you progress down the line. And folks, if you happen to have a DWI second or third, then perhaps not just looking at the representation in your criminal case, perhaps that's a good time to start looking at assistance or help if you have a drinking or drug problem, that we address that too, because the last thing we want to do is have you come back and need us again. So what are the penalties? The penalties are quite steep. The more involved that you become, the greater the history that you have, they can become really hard and burdensome. And as a defense lawyer, as a citizen who also drives the same streets you do, we just want to make sure you do the right thing and the right thing happens to you. We want to address social issues as well as the legal issues. How do you do that? You do that by getting the very best lawyer you can. And I want to recommend it in these situations where you're talking about repeat DWIs, you get somebody who's very knowledgeable in rehabilitation and somebody who cares.